North Korean and Russian leaders meeting on the sidelines. Kim Jong-un's presence marking his first major multilateral event in his 14 years in power, and a very visual tilt towards alignment with China and Russia. Vladimir Putin and Mr. Kim sharing the same car as they headed for the state guest house Diaoyutai for talks over 2.5 hours. The Kremlin confirming an invitation for North Korea's leader to visit Moscow. Mr. Kim was last in Russia in 2023, while Mr. Putin visited Pyongyang last year for the first time in 24 years. President Putin using the meeting in Beijing to lavish praise on the North Korean troops deployed alongside Russian forces in Ukraine.
В последнее время отношения между нашими странами приняли особый доверительный и дружеский характер, союзнический характер. По вашей инициативе, как хорошо известно, ваши спецподразделения приняли участие в освобождении Курской области.
아까도 말씀드렸지만 내가 당신과 러시아 인민을 위해서 할 수 있는 것이 있다면, 또 해야 되는 것이 있다면 그 형제적인 그 의무로 우리가 감당해야 될 의무로 간주하고 모든 걸 다해서 도울 용의가 있습니다.
And we stay on this story. Dasha Chernyshova joins us live from Moscow. Dasha, we saw those ties between North Korea and Russia. We look at Russia and China in the context of North Korea. Are Russia and China neighbors, and close ties over the years, over the decades or hundreds of years come to that? And with close, powerful neighbors, not always entirely easy ties. If China says its rejuvenation is unstoppable, where does that leave Russia?
Well, we understand that Moscow is saying that its partnership with Eastern countries such as China and the North Korea is not targeted against the third countries. What Moscow has been saying repeatedly is that it is cooperating with these countries for the benefit of the people who live there, for the development of their countries. So regardless of some issues between the neighbors, the general idea, the general line is that cooperation between all of those countries is actually needed for the more just and equitable world order, as well as the bilateral context that they might have and are trying to develop even further. We've seen the Russian president talking to Kim Jong-un, the leader of the DPRK, stressing once again that its help when it comes to the liberation of Russia's Kursk region from the Ukrainian incursion was absolutely significant. Once again, praising and thanking the partnership that the two have shared. And with China as well, Moscow is saying that its course that it has chosen for the no-limit partnership has been absolutely justified. So what Russia is trying to say here, it seems that despite the differences, cooperation with the neighbors in the East is absolutely paramount for the equitable world order and for the well-being of the people.
Now, Dasha, beyond what they say, if we look at concrete takeaways, so for example, last year we saw that agreement signed between North Korea and Russia, which, as it turns out, amounts to, in fact, a security alliance. Do we see any concrete takeaways from this trip that Mr. Putin has made to China?
Well, the first and foremost is indeed the Power Siberia 2, the deal that was struck the day before, and Moscow was actually quite trying to develop this track for quite some time, and now that is done, Moscow is going to increase its energy supplies to China. And the Russian president also had a chance to have a very important series of meetings with, for instance, the Indian side. Narendra Modi was another leader that Moscow was willing to be talking to, and the Russian president is expected now in India. That is also very important given the geopolitical developments that we are seeing. The United States trying to put pressure on the Russian country, on the Russian clients who are buying Russian energy resources. Russia has diverted its energy flow from the European side to the Asian market, and this is also very important. But in the meantime, we also seen that some European leaders have also been meeting with the Russian president on the sidelines of the events in China, including Robert veto. Here again, we've been talking about the energy security. Russia is stressing once again that the European countries are making a very big mistake when they are trying to divert from the Russian energy resources, because they were actually benefiting those states. So now Russia is building other partnerships, and that meeting and that trip of Vladimir Putin was important in that sense.
Oh, thanks. Dasha Chernyshova reporting live as ever from Moscow. A quick reminder: Slovakia's Prime Minister and Serbia's President were attending that military parade in Beijing, the only European leaders at this parade. Thanks for that, Dasha. CNA's senior correspondent in South Korea, Lim Yoon-suk, tells us Mr. Kim's visit to China has helped to elevate the North Korean leader on the global stage.
Analysts here have been saying that, Kim Jong-un's trip to China isn't really just about sending a message to the international community, but also of sending a message to his domestic audience, and that's back home in North Korea. Because that picture of him standing alongside the leaders of China and Russia will be something that he'll remember, or he'll want to remember, and something that he will want the North Koreans to remember for a very long time. Because, that picture alone sends a very clear message to the North Koreans that their leader, Kim Jong-un, is a strong leader now, is capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with world leaders. And in fact, the South Korea's intelligence agency believes that Kim Jong-un is trying to use this China trip and the upcoming 18th founding anniversary of the ruling Workers' Party in Pyongyang in October to set the stage for major policy announcements.
정상회담에 그치지 않고 그 이후에 국정 운영의 포석과도 연관된다라고 하는 점에서 9차 당대회에서 새로운 시대의 새로운 전략이라는 이름이나 슬로건 그런 방향으로 새로운 전략 노선을 채택하고 발표할 가능성이 매우 높다. 그 시기는 내년 초로 보고 있는 것 같습니다.
The spy agency here also believes that a large military parade is being planned for this anniversary, as about 10,000 troops have been mobilized for rehearsals. It's not as large as Beijing, but analysts here are saying that it is significant enough to showcase North Korea's military might at home and abroad. And also another interesting point is that South Korea, at least for South Koreans, is that South Korea's National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik had a chance to shake hands with Kim Jong-un before the parade. We don't know if they were able to exchange any words, but according to the National Assembly, they did exchange handshakes. And what's very interesting here is that apparently Speaker Woo had an opportunity to convey a message to Kim Jong-un through President Putin. And this was because at the reception, Mr. Putin asked him about inter-Korean ties and whether he wanted to send a message to North Korea's leader, and he did so through Mr. Putin. I think that's very important that Mr. Putin wanted to sort of like play this, go between the two Koreas.